Imagine waking up to find your entire city sinking, swallowed by the earth itself. What would you do if your home, your history, your very ground beneath you, suddenly vanished? This isn't a sci-fi nightmare. It's a terrifying reality that has happened to cities throughout history, and it could happen again. The story of the Vajont Dam in Italy is a chilling example. On an October night in 1963, it all began with a rumble, just a whisper at first. But then, at 10:39 p.m., the mountain moved. An unimaginably massive landslide crashed into the dam's reservoir, displacing water with terrifying speed. A wall of water, 250 meters high, shot over the top of the dam, hurtling towards the villages below. Survivors described it as if the earth had opened its jaws. In just a few minutes, entire towns disappeared from the map. One witness later recalled, "The mountain came alive. Everything we had was gone before we even knew we were running. They didn't stand a chance." The earth had reclaimed its territory with brutal efficiency. Now, picture this. You're in Guatemala City. It's 2010. Suddenly, you hear a deafening roar, like a giant vacuum cleaner being switched on directly beneath your feet. And then, the ground just falls away. A perfectly circular hole, deep enough to swallow a 3-story building, appears in the heart of the city. Eyewitnesses were stunned, describing how they watched a factory, streetlights, and even parts of the road spiral downwards as if they were debris in a draining bathtub. It happened again in 2021. Locals say their city is built on ghost ancient volcanic deposits that easily crumble when heavy rains wash them away. To them, it felt as though the earth was reclaiming what once belonged to fire. A sudden, terrifying void where solid ground used to be. Then there's the story of a city swallowed not by a sudden collapse, but by a slow, relentless fire from below. Welcome to Centralia, Pennsylvania. This tragic tale began in 1980 with a seemingly small fire, accidentally started deep inside an underground coal mine. But this fire refused to die. For decades, it has burned beneath the town. The ground began to sink. Ominous cracks appeared in roads and foundations. Smoke seeped through the soil, carrying the toxic breath of the inferno below. Residents watched in horror as their homes started to tilt, warp, and eventually vanish into pits of burning coal. Over time, Centralia became a ghost town, a modern-day Atlantis, but one consumed not by water, but by the burning belly of the earth, a constant, smoldering reminder of the power hidden just beneath our feet. These aren't just modern disasters. Throughout history, legends have spoken of lost cities, swallowed by the earth or the sea. For centuries, the city of Heracleion was considered nothing more than a myth, a phantom city mentioned only in dusty old Greek texts. But in the year 2000, divers made a breathtaking discovery. They found its colossal statues, its grand temples, and its mysterious sphinxes, all resting on the seabed. The earth didn't just swallow the city in one gulp. It slowly pulled it beneath the rising seas, as the soft, silty ground of the Nile Delta liquefied during powerful earthquakes. Can you imagine watching your home slowly sink, stone by stone, into the waves? The people fled, but the city stayed behind, waiting in its watery grave to be rediscovered thousands of years later. Then we travel to the Caribbean, to a place once known as the wickedest city on earth, Port Royal, Jamaica. On June 7, 1692, this wealthy, notorious port city met its dramatic end. A massive earthquake struck. The sandy foundation that the city was built upon suddenly liquefied, turning solid streets into deadly quicksand. Buildings began sliding into the sea as if they were toys. Survivors witnessed 2-story taverns vanish before their very eyes. One man claimed he saw an entire street fold like cloth. Within minutes, 2/3 of Port Royal sank beneath the waves. At the time, many believed it was divine punishment for the city's sins. But geologists today see it as a textbook example of the terrifying power of liquefaction, when solid earth turns to liquid. So, why does this happen? Why does the solid ground we trust every day suddenly betray us and swallow entire cities? The science is as fascinating as it is frightening. First, there are sinkholes. These form when water seeps underground and dissolves soft rock like limestone, creating vast, empty caverns. For years, or even centuries, the surface above might hold strong, but all it takes is one moment of weakness, a heavy rain, a slight tremor, and the roof of that cavern collapses, taking everything on the surface down with it. Then there's the phenomenon we saw in Port Royal and other places, Earthquakes and liquefaction. During a strong quake, the intense shaking can cause loose, sandy soil saturated with water to lose its strength and behave like a liquid. Entire buildings can sink, tilt, or topple over as if they were built on the foundation of jelly. It's not the earthquake itself that brings them down, but the very ground they stand on turning to soup. Volcanic activity is another culprit. The immense heat from magma can melt rock underground, while explosive eruptions can hollow out the ground with ash. Sometimes, ancient lava tubes tunnels formed by flowing lava can collapse long after a volcano has gone dormant, creating sudden pits in the landscape. And finally, there's the human factor. Sometimes, we are the architects of our own destruction. Mining for coal and minerals leaves behind vast networks of empty tunnels. Drilling for oil and gas can destabilize rock layers. Overpumping groundwater for our cities can cause the land itself to compact and sink. In a way, some cities are literally undermining themselves. Nature is patient, but when we borrow too much from the earth, one day, it decides to take it back. These scientific explanations don't lessen the human tragedy. These events don't just happen to cities, they happen to people. In 2013, in Florida, a man named Jeffrey Bush was asleep in his bed when the floor of his bedroom suddenly opened up. His brother, Jeremy, heard a loud crash and ran in, only to find a gaping hole, 10 meters wide, where the bedroom used to be. Jeffrey was gone. Rescuers rushed to the scene. They could hear faint echoes from the abyss, but the ground kept collapsing, too unstable to attempt a recovery. The house, the family's home, had to be demolished with Jeffrey still inside. The earth had taken him, silently and completely, in the middle of the night. Imagine the ground itself turning against you. During a massive earthquake in Niigata, Japan, in 1964, something truly surreal happened. An entire neighborhood built on loose, sandy soil began to slide sideways. Apartment blocks didn't crumble. They toppled over almost intact, like a line of dominoes laid on their sides. One survivor described the feeling. The ground turned liquid beneath us. We were standing on moving water. It's a terrifying thought, the very definition of solid ground. Gone in an instant. So, here's the question that keeps scientists and city planners awake at night. Which city might be next? The scary truth is, many of our biggest, most modern cities are built on dangerously unstable ground. They stand on old marshes, filled-in lakes, soft volcanic soils, or directly on top of abandoned mines. Cities like Mexico City, which is built on an ancient lakebed and sinks several inches every year. Istanbul, sitting precariously on a major fault line. Jakarta, which is sinking so fast it's being replaced as the capital. Tokyo, a metropolis familiar with the threat of liquefaction. And Naples, which lives in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. For now, they sink just a little every year, a few millimeters here, an inch there. But no one knows when that little will suddenly become too much. Cities may rise on foundations of ambition and concrete, but it is the earth itself that decides how long they stand. Every crack in a wall, every tremor underfoot, every unexplained sinkhole is a quiet, but persistent reminder that beneath our bustling streets lies a world that is alive, shifting, and breathing. The earth has swallowed cities before. And one day, it may just swallow another. History is not just the story of what we build, but also the story of what the earth chooses to keep. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the earth's hidden power fascinating, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.